That's what I like about metal. It's real. You know, it's yeah. It's like professional wrestling. It's like riding a Harley motorcycle. No, I don't ride, but I pose quite well. Anyways, so we can get into some more comedic shenanigans in a moment, but if you don't mind, I'd like to play a little bit for a minute. I haven't practiced today yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not using my standard, what you call it, the mascot D. I'm using the backup, trying to get
Okay.
familiar with it and stuff. So, but
Okay.
anyways, I'll just
Sure.
doing some stuff off the top of my head. Let's see where it goes.
Okay.
All right.
That was dope.
That was awesome.
That was pretty sick.
That was
Okay.
nice.
Huh? Oh, thank you.
Nice,
There he
man.
is. There he is. There's my brother right there. Dr. Orlando Greenhill. With the clean shaven look and shit. I'm like, what?
I forgot. You haven't seen me with my. Yeah, I don't have a beard no more.
Yeah,
Mark,
it's cool,
you got a
man. I
long
like it. I'm
beard.
digging it. I'm digging it,
Yep.
man. He chances more than I do. Okay.
My Israelite beard is gone.
Nice.
Okay. Let me sit this thing down for a bit.
Okay.
I'll come back to that later. I see the sun is getting close to setting.
Happy Sabbath, brother.
Nice.
Happy
Cheers, mate.
Shalom.
Here's.
Yes,
Okay.
we're putting the black in Sabbath, Dr. Sissy. Sicky. Doctor,
You know what?
hold on. I'm trying to think of all your names, dude. I'm trying to think of all your names.
So I'll be right.
So anyway, welcome everyone to Black Artists in That Rock edition. Invited some people that actually I've only met recently. Orlando is one of them. Orlando's been chronicling, I guess, why don't you tell your story? I met him through Facebook. He has a group that chronicles Black history of rock and roll, and he's killing it. He's doing a great job finding all these bands, giving enough information, and just to kind of not overly, but I just love how you just kind of do that little profile, and just makes me want to dig in and just look into these guys and ladies myself. So Orlando, why don't you kind of tell us about yourself and what you're doing?
Hi, I'm Orlando Greenhill. I'm a musician, music teacher, do a lot of other stuff too. How I got it on the started on the Black history of rock and roll is as a kid, growing up being into rock and roll of all kinds. I mean, shoot, anything from new wave, punk rock, progressive, hardcore punk, all that stuff, death metal, you name it. I just, people always told me that that this music was basically not for me. If it wasn't some of my own people telling me that it was like publications or just certain other people that were like basically saying, as if Black people don't play rock and roll. I remember reading something about, punk rocker that was Black is like, what is he doing here in the book? Like they graffitied it and just all kinds of different stuff like that. So for me, I come from a musical background. My dad, may he rest in peace, he was a musician, and he was into like a lot of different stuff too. He even got me even into like bands like Led Zeppelin and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I got into like a lot of rock and roll stuff as a kid. So anytime I saw any Black person, I would take note, whether I'm reading about stuff in the library about at 12 years old, or just, seeing different videos with different people that were playing rock and roll either in books or in videos. And this is before the internet. So I've been taking notes on this for a long time, since I was a kid. I'm 45 years old right now. And I started this series 5 years ago on Instagram in 2015. It was a great vehicle because I started it as a hashtag series, and pretty much ended up with like over, man, I think, I don't even, it's in the hundreds, just entries, and I'm still working on it. It's been a work in progress for 5 years. I kind of got overwhelmed because there's so many different ones that I have ideas, but then, for a while, I just didn't post. And I had it on like a lot of the hashtags on Instagram and also a few of them on Facebook. And I decided, well, heck, you know what? I'll make a group out of it. And that was recently, actually, like a few weeks ago. So I just decided to start posting all the older entries and updating them. I needed to correct a lot of stuff editing wise and just update certain things that weren't in the first times that I've entered. I'm glad that you mentioned that you like that short and sweet, because it makes somebody, go and research the groups, and even who they connect with as far as the musicians or groups or bands or whatever. And just kind of, I just wanted to kind of tell our story within rock and roll, because there's a lot of things that have happened to where rock and roll seems as if like people are saying that that's not a music label. We've started it, like 20s, you could talk about Memphis Minnie, the 30s, and I mean the 30s with Robert Johnson and Rosetta Tharpe, and there's so many different names. I focus on that, and I also focus on the part where people would say between the mid 60s and now, like it seemed like it was less present of Black folks in rock and roll. And I pretty much really like nailed that factor that we never left the music. Like it may have seemed like a minority, but we were still there, like, and so that's why I post a lot from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even some 90s. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be posting within the 2000s, but I really want to keep it kind of like 90s backwards. And I'm going to also start highlighting new artists or up and coming artists or cats that I think, and even some of them I even know, that have been doing stuff that I think should be heard, like, so it's very much a celebration, and it's just basically telling our story of rock and roll. Some people might think it's divisive. It's not, because it's like, for me, one, I am a Pan-Africanist. I have a global perspective about you know, even a lot of the diaspora, you know, like whether you're a Black Native American, whether you're like a Black American or African, Black European, Black Middle Eastern. I mean, that I take the same approach with, you know, and shoot, I just think it kind of is something that I think needs to be told, especially if you look at one of the interviews. I hope I'm not overstepping my conversation. There's an interview with the guy, Nicky Buzz from Sun, and he talked about how this DJ played his music, and then when he found out who he was, because Nicky went to the radio station, he was surprised that Nicky was Black. And then not only that, he totally broke the record in Nicky's face and said that he don't play N-word music. I don't like saying that word. And so stuff like that, or stuff like what Nile Rodgers went through with his band Big Apple, the label would not accept them because basically they were playing, you know, they were playing jazz fusion rock and roll, but the label wanted him to play R&B. So that's where Chic came in. Of course, Nile got his rock and roll stuff out later on too, with Duran Duran and Power Station and all that. But just stuff like that, you know, like just. So I feel like there's a lot more stories to tell. I feel like this is like my contribution in telling that story, and I hope I'm doing cool. That's why I'm so honored to have people like Jay and Sticky in the group, Tex Mosley, Lenny Still from Pure Hell, you know, all these other cats, you know, Mojack and Moby from Maximilian, and so many others in that group, so I could know, like, these are some of the guys that I'm writing about, and I'm honored to writing about them. I want to make sure that I'm on point representing them right. Sorry, it was a mouthful.
Oh no, that was perfect.
No.
That was perfect.
Good.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And yeah, and I connected with Orlando because I think a couple of weeks ago, like I was saying, we did the um, uh, Black artists in heavy music, and then so I had some connections to Michael Coffey from Stone
Yeah,
Vengeance,
shout out to
who's
my
a mutual friend, and then so he saw my list of artists that I asked for corrections. So speaking of corrections, so Sicky saw my list and said, "Oh, basically, Lord, it's very wrong. You need to change that." So I changed it and reposted it. But Orlando, can you do me the honor of introducing Sicky? Because I think you would do him justice more than I would.
Man, Sicky Spacek is one of the most amazing brothers out there. He's an OG in this metal thing, man, and like he's been putting it down since '77, probably even longer than that. But from what I know, Black Death started in '77, and basically like legends, Ohio legends, not worldwide legends, man. Man, it's hard to describe Sicky because he's more than just a description. So I'm gonna introduce Sicky Spacek, aka, I don't know if I should say the name. I just say Sicky Spacek. That's the homie. Right on, brother. Shalom. I hope that was a good introduction.
So
Hey, what's up, Jerry?
so we do have a few more other guests, but we'll let Jay, are you good to stay for a little bit? Do you want to go on after Sicky?
Huh?
Are you good with wait?
Yeah, I can go on after him. That's fine.
Okay, then I'll have Orlando give your intro too. Thank you.
Cool.
Sicky, why don't you
Okay.
share with us the man behind the stories, the legend?
And what he was saying. And as far as me, music was a wide variety of music. Show tunes, you know, that you see in the back in the day on the old television series like Peter Gunn. A lot of that music back then had that real type of jazzy type of theme music for those shows. That and classical music, and my mother turned me on to blues, being the greatest blues guitar player of all time, my opinion. But anyways, here's the deal. Black Death should.
You're a little bit. Your volume is very low. Where's your microphone? It's very low.
Known than what we are, but I look at it at the time that we came out, and nothing like us being around before. I think they just didn't know how to market us. How, you know, yeah, it's a great idea, great band, good music, but how do we promote it? So that's what I try to look at it. It could have been some bias, blah blah, and personal things that nature that band members themselves up. And okay, I got it. It's all the way up. I'm coming through a LG Aristophone, man. You know, sorry, it's
No
not the
problem.
tech savvy. You know, I've got a laptop over here sitting on top of the console, the old-fashioned record player. So, anyhow, stuff sitting right there collecting dust because I'm not tech savvy. When I came back on the scene, everything was digital. You know, technology. Well, I walked away in 1988 because I kind of got for a variety of reasons. One, I just wanted to play with people that could play heavy metal. Like, I didn't care about the color of their skin. But at the time back then, a bit of pressure put upon us, especially keep the lineup all dark for a particular persuasion. Okay. And that can be frustrating because back then the pickings were slim here. Okay. I mean, the guys that from the classic lineup of Black Death, when I first met Phil and the guys and everyone, they didn't play heavy metal. They were like playing Aerosmith, Rolling Stone, that John Lennon song, "Come Together" or something. They were playing hits. They were even playing some Motown stuff. But I came with the metal. You know, it's always been where I've had to, up until later on, I'll get to that later. I've always had to like every lineup. I had to introduce, teach people how to play metal, get them to try to understand me. Try to get them to get the spirit of metal in their spirit with varying degrees of success. But I've rarely been able to like hook up with a band of blokes and everybody already knew their shit. You know, up until Benny, I missed that brother. I missed that brother. He was second lead guitar player from the classic line era of Black Death from 1987 to 88 up until my self-imposed exit. But anyways, he passed away, but he knew his shit. He knew metal. He listened to metal. He listened to some other things. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to metal and you're playing heavy metal, you should bloody well know what metal is and what it's about and how to play it, how to express it, you know. So when you do pose, you can do it with authenticity. Get me? Authenticity. Sure, I can do some stereotypical, cartoony, corny poses, but why do I say it? Because it's real. I live and breathe heavy metal. Okay, just like a lot of you, but I live it every day. I press it every day. I can step on stage anytime. You know, sort of like the wrestling where the 24/7 champion. Anywhere you can have a match and lose your belt and stuff. Okay. Well, anytime I'm walking down the street, they was somebody with a pop up to one of those little rolling stages on wheels like they use in special events. Say, hey, Zinky, play it right now. I'll get up there and rock the crowd. Hell, even right now. I'll get back to playing later, but right now, I got a cigarette so I can clean my hand. I use the bathroom and stuff. I hope everybody uses the TT. Fasten your seatbelts because it'll be long. But anyways, back to the and stuff. So it was like Benny, then it was Dana. He was in the band. He was the guitar player that played with Black Death when we headlined at the opening of the new Agora from its old location to its current location in Cleveland, Ohio on Euclid Avenue, about 55th. But anyways, ever since I stepped out of high school, it's been get up, go to work, come home, practice, play your guitar, or go to band practice. 6, 7 days a week and stuff. Okay. It becomes a routine. Okay, then you have to go, you're trying, with me, it's about the music. You know, it's more about spirit, character, the people or the person that I'm playing. That's more important than their complexion, or whether they're fat, skinny, or whatever. Okay, it's the spirit, spirit. Because it's with the music. I mean, you ever sit back and ask yourself, why do we all love Jimi Hendrix's music the way we do? Especially the latter stuff he was doing right before they killed him, right? You listen to that band of Gypsy stuff. Listen to some of that stuff on Electric Lady. We were all robbed, but the music, it touches, is because that spirit, spirituality, and it's good vibes and everything, spreading in everybody, no matter what, even the most hardened criminal. Like Jimmy said, it's like tasting colors or seeing. Music is a powerful, very powerful tool gift. And those of us who are blessed to play, to be invited into that fraternity, because this is a fraternity we're all in, my brother. You know, because the blokes that come to our shows to see us play, they can't do it, but they can live vicariously through us, just like we did when we watched our heroes until we got there. Because music has the power to affect people to the point where, yeah, I was trying to search for another word, but the best is you call it what it is. Music can manipulate people's moods and attitudes, for good or bad. But think of the bands, folks like Jimmy, especially Jimmy Dooley, you know, and there's some other bands. I mean, hell, Stevie Ray Vaughan for that matter, Robin Trower. They play, and it's with that feeling, you know, and projecting that. It's like playing the blues. That's what the blues is. That's what heavy metal is. That's what all our American music is. But anyways, I digress. So I'm a bit picky. You know, I've been heavy metal from day one. I was hearing heavy metal in my head, songs in my head before I ever first heard it. And when I did hear it for the first time, Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, Children from the Grave, because I've been telling my mates, you know, my schoolmates and shit, you know, trying to describe to people what I was hearing in my head, but I had no point of reference.
Mm.
they played Grand Funk for me. I'm like, good guitar player, but this is what I'm hearing. And then when I heard that, ooh, I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this? You could tell it was from England immediately because it had Hammer Horror all over it.
Hammer is dope.
Yeah. And they had just the right amount of reverb and echo and the bass. See, that's it. You think of every good kick-ass band. That's right, Dr. Greenhill. Like Bill, my bass player says, you blokes are the mediators in every band. You know, a bass and a drummer can rock it.
That's right.
But that's the guitar, right?
I mean, the muscle players, the muscle.
Then I heard the guitar, and I said, "This is what I'm hearing in my head. This is what I've been trying to." You know, I didn't know nothing about distortion pedals or blah blah things of that nature. Hell, I hadn't even heard Hendrix yet then. Yeah, no shit. I didn't hear Hendrix until 1974.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was listening to these other blokes. Oh, fell in love Uriah Heep.
Yeah. Look at yourself. Look at
But Rush and all of Dr. Orlando Greenhill's bands, you know, Budgie, Sabbath, Kiss, Gene Simmons and Kiss, he holds it down. Hey, what's up there, Jimmy?
To add that statement of the emotion and how you play is so much more important sometimes than technical skill.
Totally.
You on that.
Yeah, man. It's nothing like just it's so weird. Like I'm a huge bass distortion dude. Like even on my upright, I've used it, and it's just like you feel like you're 10 feet tall. I'm short. You feel like you're 10 feet tall when you're playing a bass and distortion. It's like listening to the Sabbath, listening to the Barbarian by Emerson, Lake and Palmer, listening to the freaking Two Sisters of Mystery by Mandrill. Any bass is just gritty and just like you know.
Nice.
Man, what's up, Jimmy? I'm trying to say hi.
How are you?
I'm cool, man. Trying to be cool, you know.
Right. Isn't everybody trying to be cool right now?
Yeah. Thanks for like both you, Marsh, you guys. Thanks for coming in the group, man. Like it's an honor having cats like participate in stuff because I don't know, man. It's just really cool, man. I'm
Thank you.
I'm digging, you know.
You know,
Yeah.
I like to think that I know everything about heavy music and black culture and rock and roll too, because I was raised in a mixed house in Texas. So it's like you're throwing out bands on that site, and I'm going, who the fuck is this? And now, and what March or you said earlier, you know, you give these short descriptions that like now I'm going on Wikipedia and I'm checking out their tracks and I'm trying to figure out their backstory because I'm that kind of a nerd. So it's fucking awesome. I love it.
You bought their shirt.
Right?
That's so cool,
Yeah.
man. I mean, more than flattered, man. Like, it's definitely like a love project, you know, and just this is like note taking from when I was a kid to now, and I still got more to post.
Right.
Even some that I've never even completed. A lot of the stuff that you guys are seeing are kind of like reposts. I'm glad too because it gives me a time to update them. But I have stuff that's been in my head for a few years that I just got so overwhelmed. This has given me a better excuse to like just, okay, I got to get those on there too. I got a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good problem to have. You know what I mean? Is if you've got all that space to be that creative, that's rad. But fuck, that's got to be a lot of work.
Yeah, at one point I thought about writing a book, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just put it online. You know, like I'll make it a hashtag series, but also just put it online for the group. You know, like cats that are interested. You know, and I really dig like the fact that like that musicians, period, like you guys are in there, people that love music. also members of the actual cats that I'm even writing about. Some of them are in the group, you know, like Siki and like, you know, a few of the other cats that I mentioned. And it's just, you know, I mean, hopefully everyone will dig, you know, like, you know, like, I think that's cool, you know?
Nice.
Man.
Awesome. So, hey, while Siki gets back online here, hopefully with a little bit better. Just couldn't hear him, so that's why I had to interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt. Hey, do you want to give Jay an intro, and then maybe Jay, are you ready to talk a little
I'd
bit
love
about?
the intro. Jay, are you still there, Holmes?
I'm here.
All right, let me introduce this brother. This brother I call the Barry White of metal. He's one of the most eclectic musicians that I know. I mean, he's mixed everything from jazz, gospel, R&B, like industrial, death metal, and hip hop. Like God knows what else. I mean, he's the first dude I ever heard on a metal album give a shout out at the end of the album, man. Like, you know,
Wow.
and he's played with cats from Take Six to like what's the Jason Sherlock from Mortification and Paramecium. I mean, he's all over the place. He's really eclectic, and that's why we clicked, you know, when we met, you know, because I mean, shoot, I like to mix it up too, you know.
Yeah.
Joel Goodwin, aka Jay Goodwin. I
Yo.
hope that was all right.
Yeah, that's totally cool, dude.
Very nice.
I'm with it. All right. Uh-oh. Let's see.
That was the pimpiest intro I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, that was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. I know. After that, I don't know. I don't think I can do it better. No, I'm just playing. Yo, first and foremost, you know, it's really good to be on here, and there's so many people that, you know, do music. Definitely shout out to Jimmy for sure, for being on, and to all of y'all. You know, I keep up with Jimmy, of course, like, you know, online. But yeah, it's good to see you. And like I said, it's good to see all y'all. Somebody got food over there. Okay, there we go. Willard, yeah, food. Yeah, but anyway, God, I guess I can just give a little bit of history, honestly, and just go from there. Um, I'm a little bit younger than Orlando. I don't say how much younger or anything, but I'm a little bit younger than him. We met probably like 20 years ago at the Cornerstone Fest. I think I was saying that in chat like before we came on, but we met like 20 years ago. I was a fan of his group Javelina Rail Company, but also growing up, like I listened to a lot of like Christian hip hop for sure. And I remember like seeing his name in the credits of different like hip hop groups like playing bass and stuff. And then of course his brothers in a group called the LA Symphony, which is a group I highly admire. You know, so I mean, like I said, I knew about Orlando like even before, and admired his work even before Javelina for sure. Um, I'll say growing up for me, like just my whole rock story is just I grew up in an obvious religious household, like just from what I've already said, and we weren't really allowed to listen to um, so-called secular music, you know. So I was stuck listening to like gospel music. So I guess that's kind of the beginning of my the nature of me being eclectic. Is just I started off that way. Of course, just being a creative person, I got bored with that really fast. So I started branching out, and I would say that first, because religious household thing, I started just trying to find some of the bands that were out. So I discovered like Petra and stuff like that. Um, but that wasn't really. I mean, I love Petra even to this day, but that wasn't as far as I wanted to go. And I just remember like being like 7 years old, cleaned up my parents' basement, and I started writing a song. And I would say that, like, looking back, the song was kind of like Iron Maidenish, like mixed with like Winger. I don't know how that works, but like so. But uh, that passion, and I would even say that creative side of me that steered toward heavy music started before I even knew what heavy music was. Um, so I would say shortly after I started, like we had cable TV. So, like I said, shortly after, I would say I started just staying up like pretty much all night watching music videos on TV, and discovered like a lot of the classic metal bands like Guns N' Roses and stuff. And I would say that seeing Metallica do one on the Grammys in '89 um, kind of changed my life and definitely made me think, okay, like my passion, from this point on is definitely going to be heavy music. So in high school, I definitely started um, doing, like playing for bands, just local bands and stuff. In college, I went to, actually, I'm in Alabama right now. And I went to a school that's right down the street from here. It was a religious school too, but I was definitely incorporating like heavy influences into my music, and like I said, just learning. I would say I was like learning a lot of stuff on piano, a lot of metal covers on piano, and playing it for like different functions, and that was kind of wild. I dropped out of college, and that's about the time that I met Orlando actually, and at the Cornerstone Fest, I had done an EP. So I've done like two EPs like solo. The first one was called Lamal, and the second was Your God's Lie Destroyed. And on the first one, I definitely did that little shout out section. I would say that the Lamal EP was part black metal, part doom metal, and part like metalcore, like early metalcore. So that was pretty cool. With a piano solo and just some other stuff in between, and of course that shout out.
Hey, that Bounce With Me song, homie.
Oh Lord, yeah, that joint. Oh my
Bounce
God,
With Me.
I'm almost embarrassed by that right now, but I I understand that I was young and I was, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So, um, you know, yeah, that was an interesting time, so to speak. Very interesting, but I learned from it, and I'm trying to think. There may be like one song that I did live from that album, and that was Demise. I did that song live before, maybe a couple of times or whatever. It was a great song. But yeah, so continuing on, I started doing a lot of session work around this time. Everything from like folk music to rock to hip hop to death metal, and that's kind of what I've been doing since then. It's been very interesting.
Wow.
So like I love session work, and I think session work and production are probably my passions. You know, that's what I love doing the most. Um, and as Orlando alluded to, I'm definitely been working on some stuff with the guys in Australia from Mortification and other bands, symphonic, black metal, death metal stuff. Like I said, there's no limits or anything when it comes to what I do. I love it all. I would definitely say that just anything that's creative and grand when it comes to metal is probably what I'm most passionate about. The challenge, of course, is just finding musicians that just want to play that kind of stuff. Of course, it is a challenge sometimes. So I think that traveling and finding people to work with is something that I like to do because I know people, from out of state and out of country that I can work with and get things done. But yeah, in the meantime, like I said, I'll just produce.
Yeah, nice. So if you're recording with somebody out of state or far away, do they send you the stems and then you start doing your thing on your end, or how does that work?
Sometimes it's sending the stems, and then sometimes I actually travel, and sometimes I, get paid to do that, and sometimes I don't. But it's been a very like I've been doing music for a living the last
Nice.
20 years or so. So I've been able to tour a lot and do things, and still be well taken care of, which is a blessing. I think a part of that comes from just like I would say that the music I've written, I probably have about 100 or so songs that I've written that are available for purchase. Like whether it be streaming or sites or CDs or whatever, and probably have about 1,000 more that haven't been released yet. And
Wow.
it's like it goes through so many genres for sure. So is, it's just beautiful. Like I said, there's the possibilities are endless, and I really feel like I'm just getting started. I think I just want to take my music for sure at this point to in a much heavier direction than what I've done so far. And I know Orlando, of course, has heard both of my EPs, and I would say I did limited runs on both of them of like between 100 and I think the first EP I did like 100, and I think the second one I did 500. But I did a couple of festivals for my second EP, and they all sold out like immediately. So I might have like 2 copies left that just that I had on my own to
Nice.
for history purposes. But yeah, man, like I said, it's whatever. I mean, I love it,
man. Because my friend, he's in our group too. He did some death metal stuff. Met him.
Tom Fest. I remember Tom Fest.
I don't even remember. I'm like, what the? Oh, I have my old. I have like a lot of I have my old Disturbulent stuff, but
Yes,
like
that band.
Really,
Yeah.
there you go. I was anonymous for 20 years, but all my friends knew who it was. So Ramon Vonda from Flatbush, one of the baddest. If you guys have never heard them, they're amazing. They're Filipino cat. Play with folk and like Swimming Fire and Seprofagus. Shout out to all those brothers. They're a trip. Flatbush, man, I can't even put them in a category. If you like Faith No More Melt Banana, Napalm Death, you would dig all that stuff, man.
Yeah, see, I love Orlando because I mean we've had so many conversations about like just different types of music that we love and maybe even our visions for music. And it's great to have somebody like you was talking about just being eclectic and having somebody with similar eclectic vision. It just sucks that we live like pretty much 1,000 miles away from each other or whatever. I try to come up to California a couple times a year to work with actually one of his friends that does hip hop production, Peace 586. We've done a few albums together where I've like co-produced for artists and even his band, and also been a session musician. So yeah, so like I said, I come out a couple times a year working on mostly that. So we definitely try to hook up every time. But yeah,
Where do you live?
I live in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky. It's cool out here. The metal scene is cool. I will say there's a band from here called Bride. They were pretty big in the Christian metal scene years ago. And I'm cool with all those guys. I think that even though we're all like Christians, I think that we may have some beliefs and practices that may be a little different from each other, and maybe ideologies, to say the least, right? But one of the guys that used to be in the band, his name is Steve Kurtzinger. We've been working on a project that's kind of along the lines of Black Lives, just Black Lives Matter and current issues, which is something that like the other members of the band would totally never even think about doing. In fact, after I get off of this meeting and this, this great session that we're having, I'm gonna record vocals, and they're probably gonna be like kind of metalcore. On the courses, I'll definitely be incorporating some black and death metal type of vocals too. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to doing this song. It's pretty militant, to say the least. So yeah, I will talk. I know that that Siki and Orlando talked about some of the history of black music and rock and roll. I think that like I talked about my my upbringing and discovering rock and just doing rock and not really even knowing what was out there. One day I became real fascinated with Rosetta Tharpe and just that whole history. And here's something I discovered. Now, I wish I had like written this part down, just thinking about the guy that DJ that coined the term rock and roll in like 1951. I can't remember his name. It was some popular DJ that was playing so-called race records. But as we know, Rosetta Tharpe was actually the godmother of rock and roll. And here's a fun fact: is is that her first single that she released in '38 was called "Rock Me." So you have somebody that has a song. I guess I would say maybe "Strange Things Going On" may have been the first rock and roll song, but her first song, the godmother of rock, her first song was called "Rock Me." So then we have this guy that comes along like a whole 13 years later, calling himself, coined the term rock and roll. Yeah. Is that? Oh, we have
What was that robotic?
yes, the robotics.
Do I need to put on my space pants?
Yo, I'm telling you,
Oh,
Optimus Prime
I
is
had to
right.
Google. So, are you referring to Alan Freed?
I wanted to ask.
Yes, it's Alan Freed. That's who it is.
Yeah, I was like, I had to look it up. I'm like, oh, I know the name, but when I saw it, it's Alan Freed.
Yeah.
I always heard that Alan Freed coined the term, but his brothers and sisters have been saying that in church, like the black church, they've been saying rocking and rolling. Before it even became like a sexual innuendo, a lot of brothers and sisters were saying that, and they looked at it as if God was rocking in sleep, and they're rolling. Like that's where a lot of that comes from too.
And truthfully, that song "Rock Me" is about God rocking her. It's almost like one of those things like, rock me until I die, I'm in your arms type of thing. That's kind of what the lyrics were. So that, I would say, is like the true, origin of rock and roll. Like I said, that was 13 years before Alan Freed even coined the term. So, Black history is deep. And I think that when Little Richard died, of course, we start seeing like, right, exactly. It's coming. When he died, a lot of old interviews started coming up, and I thought that was really good, just for educational purposes, for people to see. He was even talking about before rock and roll, and as we know, like rock and roll is basically the combining of blues and country, and he was saying that before rock and roll, Black people actually dominated country music and blues.
True story.
Then they started like mixing it together. And the rest is history for all three of the genres.
By the way, I'm glad you guys brought up Little Richard. I was just thinking about him too. I mean, you can't hold up his version of "Good Golly Miss Molly" next to Elvis Presley's watered down, fucking soulless skeleton of a song. It's like Little Richard did it, and it was like, fuck, that's rock and roll. I mean, that was rock and roll as well.
Yeah,
yes,
man,
sir.
he's that.
And when you said that, it reminded me of Mos Def's song, rock and roll.
Yeah, I love that song.
It's an excellent song.
Then he flipped it with that hardcore ending. My brother showed me that.
Yes, sir.
He's like, oh, you gotta wait, man, check it out. Because I was liking what he was saying. So, nah, man, that's just one part. And when he got to that, I'm like, you gotta be kidding, dude.
Yeah. Elvis ain't got no soul. Jimi Hendrix rock and roll. Yeah. No, it's so cool. I appreciate like everybody, so to speak, to rock and roll and metal and all this stuff. But yeah, I think that knowing your origins. I mean, I even think about like a group like Black Sabbath. Of course, most people, or some people know anyway, that they started out as a blues band called Earth. Yeah. So that's like, so they're pretty much saying, those are their influences. Is the blues and just Black artists. Just from that.
Well, one thing I gotta ask, I'm sure y'all, and maybe not to think that I was just high or tripping the whole time. VH1 came out with this docu-series in like the late 90s or early aughts that had the history of rock and roll. And it was like at least a 5, if not 10, 15 part series where it went through the Black history and like everything you're discussing is just bringing back all these memories. And this is excellent. This is the type of interview that I hope March shares and people get it around, because a lot of people don't understand that there's Black Southern, or not necessarily Southern, but there's Black influence in so many things that people listen to today.
Right.
From rap to metal, it just branches out.
Yeah, and it is like Deep South blues. I mean, that was rock and roll too. I mean,
Yeah.
Alfred said, because a lot of people would always deem Judas Priest as the departure. Like, I get kind of sick and tired of all these new school cats. Like, no disrespect to Scotty Ian, but he's the one that started it. I dig Anthrax, I dig Scotty Ian. I'm kind of, but that's another story. And that's mainly, you guys know what I'm talking. I like what Rob Halford said, though, because people have been saying that's where metal started. But you know what Rob Halford said? He's all, there's something about, like, you know, as far as metal goes, you could never tear it away from blues. I'm paraphrasing it, because you listen to somebody like Howlin' Wolf, and basically you cannot get rid of that. He called it primal. And it's just like the fact that the people, this cat, you know, is in a band, and a lot of the guys in Priest will say the same thing. I mean, all those dudes are, you know, like for me, you know, metal started with Jimi Hendrix and Blue Cheer and all that stuff. So, yeah. I mean, they call it proto metal, but like, I like the fact that even the cats from Duke, like, they'll tell you that the straight up thing, you know, like, and the fact that he said that is just like, for me, for me, it's just the riff as itself. That's all blues too. And even like the Delta blues, which became country, you know, like that, you can never take it away from them. You know, like, I don't care how fast you play, you can never take it away from that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you can still hear that, you know, like.
Yes, sir.
Oh man.
You know, I would say, as far as metal, I would say you mix Jimi Hendrix, Howlin' Wolf, and Screaming Jay Hawkins. And you have
dude, I was just gonna say Screaming Jay, man.
That's a good one. Yeah, Screaming Jay is the god, man. He's the reason we got death rock, we got shock rock, we got horrorcore. And I mean, freaking Arthur Brown, Screaming Lord Sutch, Rolling came from that.
Rolling Stones as well. So I remember reading an interview where Rolling Stones Mick Jagger was saying our biggest influence, you know, Screamin' Jay, Chicago blues, you know, and he started prattling off another a couple offshoots of the whole black music in America. And I was thinking, yeah, I can hear that. It's obvious to anyone who knows, and it's but it was great just to hear that connection. It was just perfect.
Hey, was it Jimmy? Jimmy, was it you that posted a Screaming Jay video? Because I've just recently, like, I've been listening to Screaming Jay just this past week. Someone did.
No.
Was it Orlando? Okay.
I posted a video of him in my group, and I think somebody else posted a picture of him. You know, but yeah, Screaming Jay was the first to do that.
Screaming Jay this week too.
Yo, his appearance on Arceneaux was just like one of the greatest moments.
Wasn't that amazing?
I know Arceneaux didn't know what the hell to do, but it was just greatness, man.
The funny thing about him, Screaming Jay was an excellent opera singer, like too. Like, he was really in the Paul Robeson, and you could hear it. There's a song called Temptation. It's like a lounge tune. Oh my gosh, dude! Like, it's almost like night and day from. Oh, it's just a trip, man. The way he sings on that stuff is just like. I mean, I like his voice. It's wild, and then he gets into this like kind of lounge singing, you know, really baritone.
Right. Man, that is funny. You know, I'm gonna tell you, there's another band that doesn't have any black people in it. A Filipino person's in it, and a Mexican now. But that's their thrash roots, so to speak. But I think that, of course, in the '90s, especially with the Load and Reload and Garage Inc. albums, they definitely found their blues again, so to speak. And you know, those albums, like all those songs, are so freaking bluesy. And of course, it pissed off a lot of the people that were thrash metal fans.
Yeah, I was gonna say those weren't that popular, but yeah, no, they were not afraid to kind of go there, even though it wasn't that popular and people kind of hating on them. But
yeah, it was
kind of
beautiful.
took a chance.
Like my family, I mean, I think it really resonated with me because I think, first of all, Kirk was hanging out a lot with like Johnny Hooker and Santana, but Johnny Hooker is actually, I didn't know that. Yeah, my mother, her maiden name is Hooker, and to my knowledge, I think it's Johnny Hooker. I believe he's her father's half brother or something like that.
Huh.
I went to his funeral.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
'cause-
so I've
yeah.
been in touch with like his like John's son, John Lee Hooker Jr. Like we've been in touch for years, but I definitely a lot of them are from they lived in Denver. Like my grandfather lived in Denver. I never met him, but I know that I would love for sure to connect with my family up there, the Hookers. But yeah, you know, I would say that's kind of where my that's where my love for blues probably came from.
He lived in Long Beach, where I lived for a little bit. You know, from what people were telling me, I wish I could have saw him when he did. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's another one, of course, that has had a lot of influence on a lot of these rock people that we've mentioned for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so many.
Stooges, you know, especially
I booked him quite a few times at the Edge.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Man.
Yeah, that's wild, man. So yeah, you know, I think I might pose a question now. I think something I want to talk about is what the future looks like for Black people in rock and roll and in metal for sure. You're like, where do we go from here? And of course, obviously, we can't like tour right now, but I mean, just as far as creating and being, you know, innovators, moving forward into the future, what do y'all see as like what's next?
I just say creating, that's for me, like no matter what. I mean, it's just for me, like, as long as I, you know, to post our story within it, you know, like, and even when I say that, I have to clarify, because some people get really offended, you know, like it's no respect to anybody else's history of rock and roll. I'm a student of music, and especially rock and roll, and all kinds of people feel like telling to be told, because it's I don't think it's a shame that we have to scream to be heard. There's other things dominating that story that I feel that still don't really have our say, and that's where I know I'm not the only one doing it. You know, like there's, you know, a lot of cats, but that's where I feel like my place is, even with this series that I'm doing. So that's just to give and sound right about a lot of artists, you know, like that are where we are, you know, and just as much as we can, you know. That's right. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just think that with like Orlando's site and just these stories people are sharing, that we realize there's more, you know, we have more in common. It's, you know, and I think that would help. It's like we all love this stuff. It's like we're kind of more similar than we are different.
Yes.
So, yeah. Right. So that's kind of my point. And it's like telling the stories. It's like how you fell in love with metal, or I was into pop and stuff until junior high, of course, and it's the Bad Boys in junior high with their Judas Priest and Iron Maiden shirts, and I was like, what's that? So then I started checking it out. Then I totally fell in love with it. But prior to that, I was more into pop and you know, R&B and soul and stuff. But yeah, the more we realize, it's like, hey, we all have all this stuff in common instead of those people. It should be we, you know. So I think it's important for these stories to be told, for us to share how much like we all have in common. So it's like, it doesn't matter color or whatever. So, and the more I've been digging in, it's been fun, like with Orlando, because I'm pinging him, asking him stuff, and he's like, oh, what about this guy, or what about that? So it's been so fun just to connect to different people on Facebook, you know, with just shared passions, right? Like music. So we were talking earlier, Orlando and I told him that I found some cool African black metal bands in Africa. Freaking phenomenal. And my backdrop is like their album cover.
Nice.
Yeah, it's one of them. And then I was digging some more, and there was like death metal festivals in Botswana. So I was like, oh my God. I'm like, well, and bands from Botswana, like Rust and a couple of others I've been checking out just for the past couple of days. Freaking phenomenal. I've never even heard of them until I started kind of digging in on this black artists in heavy music. And I'm freaking stoked. We had this other band, but I kind of contacted them last minute, and they're based out of South Africa. So it's 2 a.m. for them. So I'm going to do probably a special edition where it's more friendly to their time zone, so they could hopefully join, because they were definitely interested when I told them what I've been doing and trying to bring people together and just discuss stuff and, you know, discover amazing bands that we just have no insight to. I had no idea there was a huge scene of death metal in Botswana. I mean, really, I mean, honestly, like, I hate that term, who knew, but who knew?
Yeah,
But
no,
now I know, and it's pretty cool.
yeah, they're so awesome. A lot of those bands are so awesome. I remember discovering maybe a couple of years ago a lot of those bands and seeing some stuff on YouTube. I'm like, what in the heck? Where have I been at? Where have y'all been at all my life? Yeah, I definitely started just adding everybody on Facebook, and I've made some really cool friends from, you know, some of those bands in Africa. It's so cool. You know, I'll just say this as far as just echoing what you all said about music education. You know, as far as history, like music history is important, but also education as far as like really inspiring kids, you know, black kids, but also all kids, you know, just to pick up instruments. I know that there's been a lot of lack, so to speak, when it comes to the promotion of music education. It seems like in America, for whatever reason, it sucks really, because I remember me growing up, I was playing like everything, and we had really strong programs in school.
I think it's overall.
Yeah, the arts,
You know?
absolutely.
Right.
I mean, because I'm a father to a mixed race child. You know, my kid's half Mexican, and you know, some of her older tias and tios, you know, uncles and aunts, they play something, you know, a saxophone, accordion, whatever. But younger ones, my age and not, you know, and under, only one or two. And I'm like, honey, I played an instrument. You know, you need to learn how to do this. So
That's right.
she's hating me, but she's gonna learn a damn instrument. I don't care what it is.
Yes, sir.
That's how I got into like even doing some of
As
the.
long as it's not the skin flute. No skin flutes.
No.
That's a given.
No
That's
skin
a given.
flutes.
No, wow.
I went there. I know.
No, we expected it. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah, I think budgets are being cut, but then now there's this whole push, especially for like girls or people of color, to go into STEM, you know, type stuff rather than the music stuff. But STEM will always be there. I mean, like, let them kind of, you know, have an opportunity to learn the music stuff. So I had my daughter, even though she's horrible about practicing, but to sign up for violin and, you know, just try it, you know. And I didn't bug her about it. And I remember one day I'm like, oh yeah, let me listen to you like play something. And I listened. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was watching. I'm like, you can read music? She's like, yeah. I'm like, are you reading that? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. You know, so no, it's really important, and it's just, you know, it's something that they could take with for the rest of their lives, you know, and just kind of build upon. So yeah, hopefully they realize music and the arts are as important as STEM, you know, right now.
You know what, March? I actually do music. Well, I've done music after school programs for a long time too. And one of the places, actually, no, two of the places that I worked at, they were trying to incorporate the music stuff that I do with STEM. And to be honest, that's how I found out about it. And it was a to figure out, but like it was interesting. Like the kids had to basically, or we had to kind of like what the STEM part of that was. And because I didn't know about that when I was coming up, you know, like I kind of came before that came in. So I think there has been some efforts, you know, like, I mean, that's another thing that I'm involved in as well, you know, with my Sound Army. Sebastian and Eva are part of that. Shout outs to the Sound Army family. I work with a bunch of kids in East Long Beach, you know, like, and it's been really cool, man. Like we're like a big family, and I use a lot of improvisation stuff to introduce kids to music. So I have a game that I made up, thanks to the Most High, like that I use, and basically like we get all these kids learning instruments and playing every week. It's fun, even if they don't know how.
Right.
We got to keep that, the arts,
Yes,
all
sir.
of that stuff. I'm an advocate for sure for that, you know.
It's essential, brother.
Heck yeah, and thanks to you. So cool to see parents like that put their kid on stuff like that, because I was musical family, but there's a lot of people that didn't. Some people even want, especially if they listen to rock and roll, they wanted their kids to stay away from that. Like, I'm glad my dad was. My dad would rock out and jam with each other too. So
That's cool. That's cool.
As care about your kids and put them in those situations,
Hey man.
Yeah,
Amen.
I have to try. Yeah, because I mean, music is, I mean, like right now with TikTok and stuff, I mean, they're definitely into music, but as far as learning music, that's a different thing, right? Because she's always listening to stuff. And we were talking about going to a show. I'm like, would you rather see Post Malone or Travis Scott? And then I wouldn't like name it Travis Scott. So Travis Scott is the winner out of all the options I gave for Travis Scott.
Yeah.
But as far as learning, like that's a different story. They love the music. It's like, oh, I want to hear this. I want to see that, or listen to, like, check this out. But as far as to have the discipline to sit down and, do those lessons at school and with the teacher, with the classmates, that's kind of a whole different story. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, I mean, at least they have the opportunity. It's like, okay, like you don't have to stick with it, but let's just try and see, like, if you like it, and you'll learn something new. Just
March,
try
it's all about exposure.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you expose your
You don't have
children to different things, they're going to be more inclined later in life to be accepting of other things.
That's good.
I mean, if you look at a family album of mine, you'd be like, who the fuck are all these different people? I got black, Asian, like I got every race under the sun, and you're like, that's a cousin, that's a cousin, that's a cousin, that's a cousin, that's it. Because we don't see color. You're either an asshole or you're not an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all it is.
Cheers.
And that's what I tell the kids. And I said, you guys are going to be learning something. If you want to take violin, piano, guitar, I don't give a rat's ass what it is. Try it, give it a shot. If you don't like it, find something else. Read. Okay, hang on. I also have to interrupt myself. Travis Scott, like, really? Like, if you made that suggestion, actually listen to the dude. I mean, I've seen the name. I know the face. I'm not interested. But if you, of all people...
I don't know. I don't know him, but I saw his Netflix.
How's his music? I mean, is it?
It's interesting. I mean, it drew me in. I watched the whole thing. I'm like, ooh, was that it? It's done.
Is it Post Malone covering Nirvana, doing a pretty damn good job?
No.
Interesting, or is it like?
No, it was really interesting.
Like subpar
it's on Netflix.
NWA. Okay. All right.
No,
I'll check it out.
I'll just have to have you check it out.
I have no basis of comparison. All right, so I'm just throwing a name out there.
Yeah, Travis is dope.
Yeah, no, I was.
He's dope. All right. Don't say he's dope. I'll check him out.
I mean, it's on Netflix. I checked it out, and it was really interesting. That's why I want to be open. I mean, I love checking out new stuff, and it's like, okay, I'll watch the Travis Scott thing and whatever. I mean, we have so much content. Like, I was making a list. We had a couple about a month ago talking about metal in movies and stuff. So I made this whole list of stuff I've been finding on what's been streaming on Prime and Netflix,
How many entries,
HBO.
March? How many entries do you have currently?
100 something. I'll share the link again. It's a growing list. It's like a living document. But yeah, I'll add the Travis Scott one to that list. It's not metal, but it's. But I think I understand. I mean, to be open. So, question for Orlando and Jay and the brothers on the call. I mean, I know you guys all into like heavy music and metal. Have you guys ever had any bad experiences as far as, because you aren't white or you are black, that you had issues with at any shows or any incidences, or?
You mean from everything? Fans, promoters, backstage, just period, correct? March. Sorry, just want to get some clarification.
Just overall, just overall, I guess.
I'm not speaking for them as a white man.
Right, I got you.
I'm just clarifying. Thank you.
That's fine.
Experiences, but I've had bad ones too. Like I had one dude punch me in the face, and I knew he was on some stuff like in the pit. And I knew he was on some stuff before he even did it. I mean, he's lucky I just like I pushed him, but it was just like, dude, you better watch out. Like I've also had a situation where this particular band, they wanted me as their bass player. And I'm not going to mention the record company that was looking at them. but they were looking, and I knew why the guy didn't want me. You know, like I knew why I guess he's an A&R. The guy kept apologizing, and I already knew, like I knew because basically like it was, you know, the whole band was a white band, and you know, here I am, this black punk rocker. They weren't punk rock at all, but I had that look, and plus how I looked. Like the guy basically, I already knew. Like I'm like, it's cool, dude. I already know, you know, like so. I've had that. I've had people also, you know, like on the other side, you know, you get some, and I understand it, especially after studying, you know, Black American history of why this even happened to me. You know, like of course, you know, you think basically, some people will say, well, are you trying to be white doing that? And so for me, I'm just being myself for one, and I understood as a kid I would get angry at that, but as an adult and studying our history as a people, I totally understand where they're coming from. Not that I excuse that, it's just that a lot of us, as far as Black Americans, we've been so progressive, we've always created and then moved on to the next. And if somebody is not where we are, in a sense, it's almost kind of like looked down upon, you know, not, I see it more in a different way than I did as a kid, you know, because I didn't want to be misunderstood because I was just being me. Like a lot
So
of
you
brothers,
so really you just accepted it, really, right? It was more of an exception. They are who they are. They're going to be who they are, rather than, you know. Is that what you're really trying to say?
I guess back then I just said, you know, whatever they do is what they do on either side. I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I have to be true to myself. And
Yeah.
the reality, I got that reality check because my mom was a hairstylist. I had a high top fade before it was even a trend. My mom was always
Yeah.
and so people made fun of me. I went home crying. I cut it off. Next year, everyone had that. So from then on, I just said, F everybody, dude. It got crazier each year. I went from having a part all the way from here to having mohawks and Liberty spikes. And I didn't give a care about anybody making fun of me. I mean, I've been called everything from like, you know, a devil worshiper. I'm not, you know, for those that are, that's what they are. But I wasn't, you know, and just, you know, other bad like things. I got into a fight with a racist heavy metal dude. I mean, all kinds of stuff as a kid, but at the same time, I had a lot of kids that were really cool with me too, you know, like just some of them were just like, wow, dude, what the heck? I had parents that were scared of me, you know, like my own pastor at the church that I used to go to actually defended me. That's a rarity right there. It's funny too because now I go to a completely different kind of church. I'm an Ethiopian Orthodox, and I hang out with the priest. He looks like Gandalf. You know, he's like the only white priest in the whole church. But
Wow.
it's like with makeup on and spikes, and then him looking like Gandalf. I wear a head covering sometimes too. I don't have to, but it's just people are like, "What the heck?" It's weird. You know, so I mean,
Love it.
from then on, I just, you know, I'm just gonna do me no matter what. I could care less what anyone thinks, you know. So I've had both, and I mean, enough respect to all those that, you know, like on no matter where they're coming from, you know, like that are cool, you know, like no matter what. So I hope that made sense, you know.
Oh no, yeah,
No,
no. I
totally,
just wanted to,
totally.
yeah, just wanted to
Yeah.
see your experience. But yeah, that I could totally see that happening because at first it was kind of like our white people giving you crap, but it's sometimes it's your own family or something. It's like, what's going on? Like,
Oh man.
well, you're not
My
supposed to like
family
that,
was really
you know?
accepting. My family was really
Okay.
accepting, and my dad and my mom were always like, you know, you know, people will give you flack, but it's, you know, like I'm just letting you know. But you know, my dad was a freaking hippie for crying out loud. My mom was like, you know, in the her thing, flower child and all that. I mean, whole family's pretty eclectic, so my family, my brothers and sisters are all cool, you know, like, but it was
Awesome.
mostly the outside world that I got it from.
Cool, cool, cool.
You know. All
That's
right, I
funny.
can give
So
you.
yes, I can give my experience now. I would say that I experienced a little bit. I just remember being maybe high school and being called a few names from some people that, like, you know, we would sit around listening to a bunch of music, bunch of metal music, discovering, you know, especially I guess I was in that period of discovery at that time, of course. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, I think that's kind of where it started. I was around a lot of black people, and um, college, and of course before high school. So college, of course, like high school, college, that was when I was really getting into metal, and I would say like especially college, getting into death metal and stuff, and being on a predominantly black college campus, of course, like everybody thought I was like the devil himself just because I wanted to listen to death metal. And once again, like Orlando said, no, no offense to Satan, so to speak, but yeah, they thought, if anything, that I was just an evil person. And
Now,
I remember, this is interesting. Just this girl I was in love with, uh, she had like a few years later, she had some kids. She had a couple kids or whatever. And I remember her best friend like telling her, this guy has a mohawk and listens to metal all the time. Like he'll be no good to as a person to be with for the sake of your kids. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what does that have to do with anything? So I would definitely say that a lot of the discrimination has definitely come from black people, which is, like I said, just the whole conversation we've had about how ironic it is that they have abandoned music. That's almost like a whole conversation right there, and in and of itself is how, a lot of black people have abandoned a lot of the things that they started in favor of, I guess, the alternatives, which is maybe like hip hop or
okay,
R&B or whatever.
March, can you put a pin in that? Because that's actually a topic that I think we could have a whole session just on. And I
Yeah,
think it's
we'll have
important.
to do that, man.
I think it's really important because, like I have my friend Frankie, he's a black dude. His parents are from Ghana. He was into metal, and a lot of his buddies were black.
Mhm.
Sorry, he had lots of friends.
Yeah, no, you're good.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
His black buddies gave him crap because he listened to metal, and asked me, and I'm like, how the fuck should I know? I'm not in your culture. I was like, I'm not from Ghana. I was like, I don't know. So why is that state? Why is this acceptable? This type of subculture and musical genre acceptable, and this is completely forbidden.
You know,
Even though modern music literally has its roots from the majority of black people.
yeah, I think one thing that I mentioned for sure was just that, like I said, the college I went to was a Christian college, and just a lot of
No,
people
but I meant on a whole, not just you.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, like, I would say that there's been a lot of music suppression by a lot of, especially evangelicals, that have always been afraid of like a lot of these things, whether it be rap or hip hop or metal or whatever.
fear
And
of the unknown,
even
right?
just thinking about like the Beatles and Little Richard and all them, like,
Yeah.
quote unquote the church. Now, of course, obviously, these people were actually in the church, for a while. Some of them abandoned later, but I mean, you're talking about most of the people that started like rock and roll and stuff were Christians, and blues and all that stuff. So they, I think about somebody like Rosetta Tharpe, for example, like, because of the fact that she was getting so much criticism, like she was just writing music, and some of it was like about God, and some of it was about other subjects. But because of the criticism, she just pretty much had a struggle most of her life, like trying to figure out churches or do I want to sing in nightclubs, So that struggle, I think, has been a part of, what we have gone through when it comes to how we're accepted by people. And definitely, I know, like I said, just like Orlando, just being in some of those Christian circles, so to speak, um, rock and roll and especially metal, becomes labeled the devil. Like just and I think that obviously some of the imagery doesn't help, but I think, sometimes I think it's a really good thing. A lot of times the imagery challenges people, to think, I guess, outside the box, and to
Right.
it gives a visual image of social issues or whatever in a way that's like just more creative and catchy than, say, just trying to write a book or trying to write a pamphlet or whatever. So I actually think it's like kind of essential. But like I said, whatever, like those people don't understand, they'll definitely ostracize for sure. So I remember just recently there was a white preacher that knows just how much I'm into metal and stuff. And I remember I was having a conversation with him and another preacher, and he came up to me and he was just like, that metal stuff you listen to, there's nothing of God in that. I'm like, what? I'm like, what in the hell, dude? So I had a talk with him afterwards, and we, like I said, we just talked. I mean, I kind of clowned him right there, but we definitely had a talk afterwards. And I'm like, yo,
I would have found them.
like there's like I said, there's so much. I mean, obviously metal covers so many subjects and stuff, and there's so much beauty just in music overall. And I think that a lot of times, you know, when you get like an organized religion or even other organizations, you know, where they will definitely try to dampen creativity. And I think that that's probably part of the reason why we even see music education not being as highlighted as it used to be. People don't value artistic, you know, creative outlets a lot of times. It's very tragic, but
And to add on that, education isn't even valued in this country.
right.
You know, but that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
That's a great point.
how many STEM programs, and that includes art. Okay.
Yeah, art.
Yeah.
Just like I said,
Yeah.
art, and of course, you know,
It's dead.
a big part of music, especially talking about metal, you know, is art. Especially, you know, you talking about the album covers, especially, and you know, just the creativity that's put into a lot of music. So there's a whole artistic piece to that you know that is pretty much essential to you know to the success of bands. So, you know, I mean, that's like the first thing. I mean, people rave over album covers a lot. I mean, you know, you think about some of the classic album covers, whether it be Black Death, who we're talking about, or like, you know, Iron Maiden, or
Right.
or
Did,
Napalm Death, you know.
did Siki
Yeah.
ever come back?
No, he said he
Oh.
had low battery life, and I
Oh,
think he
Ah.
failed.
all right.
He's in the East Coast right now, so
Oh, okay.
but yeah. So hey, Jimmy, I know you said you grew up in Texas, white mom, black father.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues growing up with your music? I mean, did you always like how you are now? Were you always amazing, like from a young age? And
No, yeah, I mean, we had, you know, growing up in El Paso, Texas, you know, in an army town, Fort Bliss, uh, yeah, it was weird, a little bit, you know.
okay,
And my cousins, who are darker, way darker skinned than I am, you know, got it real bad in school growing up, you know, because they had the same situation with my aunt. So, you know, it was like we had a small little tribe in El Paso of people that we could hang out with. It was kind of weird for a little bit, yeah. But I'll be honest with you, I've seen more racism in California than I ever saw in Texas.
Wow.
Agree.
True story.
Jimmy, did you ever just walk across to Juarez?
Oh, we went to Juarez all the time when I was a kid. Yeah, before it got
Passport or no passport? Oh, yeah. So it was safe then.
Oh well.
just roll.
I hear those stories. Oh wow! I hear somebody. Oh wow!
Yeah, that was me. Yeah.
Dude, we used to walk from San Diego to TJ all the time for those donkey shows. Not quite.
Oh Lord.
Well, I was too young for that kind of action, but I did get a lot of like chicle and tacos and ate, you know, fresh pork skins on the fucking street, which is outrageous if you love pork skins. And I don't want to even get into a conversation about food now. Anyway,
that sounds really good right now. Chicharrones.
Thanks.
right?
Interesting. When did you come? When did you leave Texas? How old were you?
I went on tour with Young American Showcase for 2 years. So I think I moved here when I was 22 or 23.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go back to El Paso.
Mm.
Hey Jimmy, here's a funny thing. There's so many bands like that moved from Texas to San Francisco. DRI, MDC, freaking what was the name of that group? The Feeders. Like, no, they were actually from Arizona, but there's so many people. I wonder what's the deal with that. You know, like.
I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, I'd never thought of that. There were a lot of great bands out of Texas. I mean, especially in the heavy community. Remember Watchtower? I mean,
Oh, I didn't know they were from Texas.
Oh yeah.
you know, stuff like that.
I haven't been doing that in a long time.
I do remember that. Yeah.
There used to be this Hispanic band that sang in Spanish and English from El Paso, Texas, that had a record out on Atlanta, 2 records out on Atlanta Records called Dark Heart, and they were the most ass-kicking heavy rock band I'd seen at the age of 16. I was
Yeah,
like,
hell yeah.
fuck are these guys? And I went to the Spanish and the English show because I was so into the band.
That's dope. They did 2 shows.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's funny you mentioned the Spanish in LA in the early 90s. A lot of the death metal bands they really rocked a lot of the Spanish stuff, and a lot of the underground death metal bands in the early 90s, like Lepra and like freaking, well, no, Sadistic Intent didn't speak in Spanish, but there's a bunch of other ones. Brujeria, of course. They were from LA. A lot of people don't think so. Yeah.
Right. They're amazing. Yeah, when I went to San Bernardino, there was like a huge portion of the crowd were Mexican or Mexican Americans or Mexican. So it's pretty huge, I think, metal in Mexico.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
In LA, man, South Central, like a lot of Mexican and black folks, you know, like I remember like for a while it was just those are the 2 that I saw at shows out there. You know, it was a good mix, and I'm like, man, it was even more because even in the 90s, like when I was coming up, like as a teenagers in the late 80s, early 90s, you would see cats like I knew a few cats here and there, but still it was like, you know, the bands that you know, there was the East Coast death metal, a lot of the West Coast stuff don't really get as much props. Terrorizer maybe, but you know, you like Entity and Sadistic Intent, who are like the OGs out here, man, and they don't. I think people should talk about them even more. You know, they really set it down. You know, like when it came to this death metal in LA, man, like man, Demolition, so many different groups, Amplify.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of them were most of them were Hispanic, you know, like Latin cats that were in the bands.
Hey, you know what? I
Sorry,
forgot to mention something earlier, and that is one thing that's actually surprised me as far as metal show are 2. I went to like 2 Mayhem shows. I saw them in 2011 and 2018, and it was all love, even from the band members, for sure. Had a nice little talk with Hellhammer. I know he's had some very interesting things to say in the past, but you know, and we know some of the history with those guys. Very interesting, but they were pretty cool as far as just hanging out for sure. And I think one other thing I wanted to mention, and I think I'm done almost, is just that I have seen. I've had to actually recently just kind of let go of some of the associations that I've had with people, just seeing what their attitudes have been to race relations.
Yeah. Same.
And like especially from people that should know better. You know, the people that talk about like freedom and love and patience and kindness, and they're just a lot of times totally either oblivious, ignorant. I was trying to think of some nice words to say on here. I mean, we're on it we're on something that's gonna like go all over the world, man. But I really just want
a lot of Karens, right?
A lot of
Karens.
It's appalling, man. Yeah. It's really appalling, and I'll speak out against it. But yeah, sometimes I'm cool with people. I don't mind people obviously like having different views to me. I mean, like a lot of my friends are like Satanists or pagan or whatever. But I mean, when you like step over the line of human decency, I don't see any reason for me to associate with people like that.
Right. So Jay, you said you're from Louisville, but have you been in Louisville like the past couple of weeks, like recently?
Oh yeah, and from here.
Okay, so how has it been? Like,
okay, I will say that there have been a few things have happened. There have been marches literally every day for maybe the last 3 or 4 weeks now, which has been great. Some, of course, the first few were really big. And then once they just started tear gassing, like pretty much every march, it died down. But they have definitely, like, somebody somewhere in the city has been marching like every day or doing some kind of rally or something. I've participated in 3 so far, and they were really, really cool. I actually sung at one. I actually sung a Metallica song, some kind of monster at one of them. I did like
Wow.
a piano version, like I was singing and playing piano. That was cool. And I also sung a couple of songs that I wrote. Um, but yeah, like it's been really cool to just to see people uprising. There was a really big deal over John. I think his name is John Castleman, who was a Confederate soldier. That there's like this area of Louisville called the Highlands, and it's a really big area with a lot of music stores and shops and just all kind of stuff. And a lot of people that live over there are kind of affluent, rich people, white people mostly. And some of them made a really, really big deal out of this Confederate statue that was kind of like in the middle of the neighborhood in a roundabout. Um, that was it had been defaced a lot of times, but finally they took it down a couple of weeks ago, and people made a really, really big deal out of it. It was kind of funny to me, but I think it was necessary for it to happen. But like I said, there's been something going on, and of course, um, there was even a rally. It wasn't in Louisville, but it was in Frankfurt. There was a rally. I think this is Friday, so maybe it was yesterday, and that featured Common, Jada Pinkett, and like a bunch of other people. So, um,
Oh, okay.
it was a lot of people there. So, like I said, I've been trying to get involved as much as possible. I think my approach now definitely is just to reach out to some of the churches. I would say like churches and even Black Lives Matter, the Louisville chapter, and other organizations to find solutions um, to some of the problems. And hopefully, I know that one of the officers has been fired, but we're trying to basically get the officers charged for sure and sentenced that
Yeah.
killed Breonna Taylor. So I think that's like
Yes.
major goals right now because that was just such a crazy situation. And the
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
and the thing, especially that they just kind of barged into the wrong house, and the person that they were looking for had already been arrested. That's
It's
just
just so it's so tragic. I mean, yeah, I was reading up on that and it was just, oh, yeah.
and one
Good
of
for you,
my
man. Good for you.
and one of the people that I mentor. Well, okay, so there's a few people that I've mentored, and this one guy, he actually died pretty young, like early 20s, a couple of years ago. But the mother of his child and Breonna Taylor are best friends.
Oh,
So I've definitely been I've seen her her posts and stuff like that. I mean, I've been seeing her
yeah.
posts since like months ago, but it's just been crazy. Um, it's insane. That's all. But like
Right.
I just want to see those officers charged. I'm glad that there's been uprisings all over the country over all these things, and I hope to see at least I think a lot more people are being aware. Like I said, there's those people that I've already mentioned that have just downplayed everything, ignored them, or or just whatever, or in some cases like just totally showed hate to the situation and the organizations, which is pretty disgusting.
Well,
Um,
but remember, you got to
Right.
take it. You got to take it with like like when people say, "Oh, well, all lives matter." You got to take it
mhm.
with a bit of trepidation, right? Because they're not necessarily saying that Black lives don't matter. They just
Oh
don't
yeah,
understand the context of why
right, right.
everyone is so up in arms. And that's
Yeah.
one of the big. I mean, and I don't use Facebook, so yeah,
Mhm.
I work at
Congratulations.
Cisco, so I know about these things through March because she works at Cisco. So I don't really do Facebook, and it's like there's so much anger and animosity towards everyone just
Yeah.
based on such a stupid misunderstanding. If people were just able to get together and fucking communicate, we
Yep.
wouldn't be having this issue. And I will jump on that bandwagon. All those fucking cops all around the country that have semi suspicious deaths of black people, they definitely need to be investigated.
Mhm.
Yep.
Fuck all of them if they are
Yeah.
proven guilty. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. Oh, the topic a little bit. How's
Yeah.
the whole COVID-19 in Louisville? I mean, are people?
Well,
I'm like, I'm
Uh
afraid to
oh.
know
I'll
the
say
answer,
this.
but tell me. Tell me
no,
what
that's
you've
cool.
seen.
Andy Bashir, who is our governor, has been one of the people that has been um, in the forefront of giving out information and also just being pretty strict as far as rules and shutdowns and openings and things like that.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of, especially conservative backlash for sure, all over the country about him, but I think he's done an amazing job. Um, I think about a lot of the people that I work with, some of the organizations that, like, I definitely do a lot of, most of my work is kind of nonprofit. I work for a church and I also work for, now I pay taxes off of any money I make, but I mean, as far as the organizations that themselves,
Right.
are nonprofits, and they haven't opened back up yet, of course, because of just being around people. And I would say the church, the both of the churches that I work with, have a lot of elderly people for sure. So
Okay.
they're being very cautious when it comes to
Good.
opening up, and I support it for sure. I mean, it
That's
happened.
great to hear.
I
To hear.
played my first church service actually on last Sunday, and like since maybe the beginning of March. So
Okay.
and like I said, I did that gig, of course, a couple of weeks ago at a rally, and I did like one more gig for another rally like the week before that. But I would say honestly, like besides just doing random session work, that's about the most I've played instruments in like
Oh.
since March the 8th.
Yeah. Was it a Zoom, like is your church doing Zoom services or some type of
Yeah, we just started
virtual?
like, okay, so one of the churches um just started streaming services, and it's like 10 people in there, and they just kind of do the service, and just
Hmm.
let everybody watch at home. The other
Right.
church has been doing like recorded sermons, and then like I just have a bunch of music honestly just laying around. And some of it's gospel, some of it's like metal, some of
Okay.
it maybe rap or whatever. So I've been like some of the gospel songs I just literally had laying around. Um, I let the church use them as their opening music.
Okay. So you recorded and you're just like giving them your MP4 and then they're doing.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been fun. And like I said, and besides that,
Good.
like I just started developing programs for youth organizations and churches and stuff. Like a couple, people I work with, just to help them to find things to do for the summer that,
Hmm.
just in case there's nothing going on. And I know that one
Right.
of the things that I'm gonna definitely do is do some. I have a few. Well, I have a bunch of people that teach music, as far as choir music and stuff. So I'm trying to get together right now, like like virtual music lessons and voice lessons, and
Great.
hopefully we'll have a couple of virtual youth choirs coming up out of this. You know, but
Okay.
yeah,
Great.
in the meantime, I really, like I said, we've been talking about metal. I really just want to make some metal for real. So I maybe need to find a guitarist and just go for it. That's like the one instrument I don't play, which is freaking sucks.
Guitar.
Yeah.
I've got a side note to say about the gospel thing. I've been dying to put together the weirdest, most eccentric Keith Green tribute album of all
Oh
time.
man, Keith Green is
So
amazing.
you guys
Here's your
need to
man.
hook
Here's your
up.
man.
There you go.
Like, I
Yeah.
would love to do something way off to the left of Keith Green stuff, because like that dude wrote some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. A huge influence when I was growing up. I used to listen to Keith Green all the time, man.
Yeah.
My parents used to listen to him.
I'm gonna tell you another person that I love, just that that's from the era, is Phil Keaggy.
Oh,
Oh
dude.
yeah,
So I was
glass freaking harp. You guys
Yeah.
have no.
Wasn't wasn't Jimi Hendrix on the Tonight Show, and they asked him who his favorite guitar players were, and he said Phil Keaggy and
Phil Keaggy Phil Keaggy definitely, and Eric Clapton has said it too, and others, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard he said that.
Yeah,
But
Phil is amazing, man.
band Glass Harp is sick, y'all. If you have not heard that, you gotta hear that. Man, Glass
Yeah.
Harp was.
Yeah, I've done a few gigs with him. I used to be in a house band for this big festival called the Ichthus Festival, and we were on the main stage. Like, it was a big band of a whole bunch of people that came together, like Chester Thompson, Victor Wooten, Reggie Wooten,
Oh,
Des
wow.
Dickerson,
Oh, Victor.
all those guys. Phil Keggy was among them, I think, for 3 years in a row. So it was like all of us. I was like the one person. I was like the unknown person in the group. Everybody else was like legends.
Nice.
I was just on the organ playing, charting. Basically charting out those songs the day before, playing them. Like that's, like I said, that's just the kind of work I've always done. But it was like working with all these guys has been great. Vic, he actually brought me on after that to help produce like some stuff for his record label quite a few years ago. And that was cool. JD Blair, that's the man. Like, he's really amazing. That's like one of my best friends even to this day. In fact, I need to hit him up now that I'm down here. What am I thinking? I gotta hit up JD Blair. But yeah, JD is amazing. Of course, he worked with Vic a lot, and also Shania Twain and others. So yeah, I think that this chat today, and just overall, like just thinking about the metal community, the metal community really is it's a community for sure. And the people that I've met, in this chat and just overall through the years of just being a metal fan or, doing random session work or just going to shows or whatever, it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of that. And, hopefully that's something that doesn't die until I die and lives beyond me.
Right.
So I have
Music shouldn't have a color. I mean,
I just thought of
it
something.
just kills me.
I thought of something interesting. Do you find it funny that the most extreme ends of the music spectrum, whether it's punk rock or metal or death metal or as dark as it can get, are more accepting of other ethnicities than certain
Yes,
ground music goes?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's easily explainable, Jimmy, right? Because in order to have that lyrical adventure of the macabre, the Satanists and everything, you have to like expand your mind a little bit. So if you're going to expand your mind, you're already going to be in tune to having people of different perspectives, races, cultures, etc. And my soapbox is over. That was a real quick one.
Jeremy, I love you, dude.
I'll be honest,
Every time. He has
I
something
still
epic
didn't
to
like
say.
King Diamond. All I'm saying is I didn't like him. I'm kidding.
What about King Diamond?
No,
What about
yeah.
King Diamond?
No, I was just joking.
It was all loves, March. He
I'm
loves
all.
King Diamond. I love King Diamond. We all love King
I
Diamond.
got you. Let me
I love
do
King
something real
Diamond's
quick.
music. I don't really personally believe in what he's pushing, but whatever. That's just...
Hey, you know what? The Abigail album, when a couple of years ago, I saw Mark from Death Angel at that show, the one at the Warfield.
Yeah.
Dude, when they played the whole album, I was like through, because I was way too young when the album originally came out.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, my first time, it's like,
No,
dude,
man.
it's just fucking so epic.
The first
Yeah,
one,
I just
Dude, he's got it
Yeah,
on. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Good job, man.
the first time we had him at the Omni, dude. I was like, holy crap.
I was there. I was
Right.
at that show. Yeah.
Oh man, I hope I
Yeah,
get
he's
to see
awesome.
King Diamond before this whole.
Oh, you've
The
never
way
seen
things
him,
Yeah.
bro?
I
Grandma.
haven't
Have you
seen
seen
him.
him before? Oh.
He came to Louisville a couple months before COVID hit, but I had another gig.
Yeah.
I was gigging
Dude.
like every weekend before everything hit. So it's been a really big, like I said, even though I'm doing like session stuff, like I really was gigging hardcore.
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
that's good though. It's good. That's a good excuse. But yeah, King
Yeah.
Diamond was
I want to
amazing.
cry though.
Dude, people.
Yeah, definitely check him out, dude,
It's
before
amazing.
he goes.
People
Or, I
forget
mean, stops playing. I don't mean like dying.
Yeah, no, yeah. No.
dude, how amazingly tight that band is, Merciful Fate and King Diamond. It's like
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I agree.
When they
Amazing.
played the Edge one time, the band soundcheck. King doesn't show up to soundcheck. I mean, he's this thing. So the band ended up doing they started playing Thin Lizzy live and Dangerous.
Dude.
Just the band, and them singing and taking turns doing parts. And it was just like, what the fuck?
I got such a long story of King Diamond. I'm not even getting into it. I won't get into it. But it's an epic story, but I can't get into it all. But
Nice.
it's just
We'll make
All
one
right,
show
all right.
about King Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw him at the Stone for the first time, and he was in the coffin. They were burning the coffin, and all of a sudden he like appeared from the back, like in the front door. He
Nice.
walks through. I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's a long time ago, but
Hey,
yeah.
hey,
great
Joel.
performer.
Joel, can I
Yeah.
ask you a question?
Yeah.
Hey, now are you from Louisville? Or are you from Louisville?
Well, I
You
pronounce it
guys said it
Louisville.
straight. I know,
pronounce it
but
Louisville,
people
but,
there,
you know.
I know they say Louisville.
It's so
Louisville.
funny. So what's crazy is I remember I was out like a couple of days ago in a meeting at a lunch meeting, or what was a dinner meeting, and people from Louisville definitely wonder if I'm from like New York or something, just because like some of the words I use and
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
my accent. But now if I go to like California or even New York, they're like, okay, you have this southern accent, at least to an extent. But to the people in my area, for sure, they're like, yeah, they
Well,
think it's from somewhere else.
my niece worked in Louisville. I had to say it, Louisville, because I couldn't. I said Louisville. They're like, no, don't even come here and say that shit.
Yeah.
It's Louisville. Okay, you got to lose some vowels in there, and you got to do that shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, one of my niece's husband he played ball. He played ball there at Louisville. Yeah, he played
That's
football
awesome.
there. He was a lineman. Yeah.
That's real cool.
Yeah, whatever. That's a side thing.
Your niece, was she like fucking 15? What was going on?
Hey!
You look so young.
Oh,
That was beautiful. That was good. That was a good little comeback.
oh, you kiss
Nice.
ass motherfucker. I swear.
I know you want him to be your godson, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh my God.
All right.
Oh.
Everyone, okay. We're just last week. I think we went 3 hours, Jimmy, right, for your birthday party?
Yeah.
I missed it. I can't wait. I need to
That
watch
was
that
crazy,
show, man.
Jimmy.
Jimmy, I'm sorry I missed that, buddy. I really am. I had other shit going on, a lot of tragics in my life, so I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate you guys being on here, but I happy birthday, buddy.
Yes, happy birthday.
Man. Well, don't even trip, dude. I mean, whatever. It was
It was
fun.
fun.
We had so much fun.
Oh my
Yeah, we
God. So it was, yeah. So Jimmy, sorry for the delay in posting that, but it's like I need to chop it up because it's so long, right?
It is long. Yeah, it is
It
very
is so
long.
long. I need to do like 1, 2, 3, or just
I
chop it
like
up into little bites.
was that the one where a few people opted out of recording certain things? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, unfortunately,
Hilarious.
opted out. Yeah, Willard, you missed out,
I'm like,
dude.
oh,
There
it
was
must be good.
I'm
was like, oh, it
sorry,
must be good.
man. Oh yeah.
That's
crazy,
fine.
crazy stories.
Yeah. That's,
So, Mark,
oh.
Mark, are you gonna tell everyone your big news? What's going on
What?
with Mosh Mag?
Oh, I'm like, I'm not expecting. Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Thing.
Oh, the muzzle top.
We're getting married. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Here
We're
it is.
moving to Utah.
I'm not expecting.
Mark
Yeah,
is,
so
Mark
Willard
is
and I,
joining
yeah,
our team.
Willard, yeah. So,
Good.
yeah,
Go on, Mark. You do it.
Willard and Scotty have been running moshmag.com, really cool, like online, and Willard's an amazing photographer. So, yeah, I'm partnering with these guys, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
publish some of these recordings through Mosh Mag, and then I'm gonna. So as I was like talking to Orlando and he's documenting all this stuff, and it really inspired me to, it's like, hey, it's like, why just have the recording? Let's write articles, because some people love just watching quick and dirty, like doing a video and listening. But lots of people are still old school like me. We love reading. Like that's why I love Orlando's little blurbs and stuff. I just love seeing stuff in print. So I'm gonna, for interviews and stuff, I'm going to start writing articles and publish the interviews. So yeah, I'm gonna partner with Willard and Scott and
Nice.
work with them.
Scott, are you on here?
Moshmag.com.
Scott's still on here?
I think he might be
Scott's still on
gone.
here. Anyway,
He's a trooper.
but what we really are going to do is we're really going to push her writing. Her writing is absolutely incredible, and we've got Will Carroll's coming. It's going to be up either tomorrow. I've got to get everything down. So, and I'm telling you, March is a hound. Like, no, it's got to be perfect, and I love it. I love it because it keeps me on my toes. And I'm going to push it to Blabbermouth. I'm going to push it to a lot of places, and yeah, I've always enjoyed March's interviews, and yeah, so I'm excited for her. I'm excited for her.
Oh,
yeah,
March.
so hopefully we'll just get a more, just just kind of spread the news of whatever we talk about here. You guys will
Totally.
kind of get a
Yes.
little bit more,
Looking
a
forward
little
to
bit more attention, and this
Yeah.
will be fun. It'll
Branch
be
you
really
off.
fun.
Stuff like that.
So
So,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
to our new guests, I'm going to do what Marcus does. To our new guests, thank you for coming. I mean,
my-
Jimmy literally showed up for one more.
Wow.
wow.
You are
Wait,
a total robot on us.
So,
Space Force.
wait.
No.
Jeremy, wait.
No.
Jeremy, that was really bad. Wait, hang on.
Wow. That was Mr. Roboto.
Mr. Roboto.
Yeah.
I'm
Space
sorry.
Force.
Jeremy, try that again. Jeremy, try that again.
Say it again.
hang on.
Go.
You feel like the guy on, what was the guy on South Park, you know? And I'm gonna go get him.
Oh my God. I don't know what
There
happened.
you go,
Jeremy
Jeremy.
was fine
That was
until
good,
he
Jeremy.
wanted to.
Ned.
Jeremy. What happened?
That's amazing.
Go. Jeremy.
Hey,
No.
you gotta try it again, buddy. You break.
Try
All
it
right,
again.
all right, hang on.
Oh, no, that's
Okay,
better.
you're fine now. Go.
Oh, I'm fine now? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe the stream is stopped upstairs. I wanted to say, gentlemen, thank you for coming. CK's
Yes,
more
absolutely.
than welcome to come back. Jimmy
Yes.
was our guest here 3 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago? Was it a month ago? Jimmy, was your first time?
I'm
or
checking
5
it
weeks
out.
ago?
First time
Can't
there was a
wait.
birthday party last week. Lots of
So,
great stuff.
And
He's
Jimmy's
down,
been
old Jimmy.
back every week. Jimmy's
Yeah.
having a blast. You know, this group is growing. It's just
Joel,
like
thanks for
it's a
coming out,
bunch of,
man. Totally.
yeah, it's a bunch of
Thank you,
musicians and
Thank you, Roland.
musical fans. So please, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, for what
There's
you
a
guys
ton.
do.
Yeah, thank you so
Thanks for
much. And
having
I'm getting a lot. Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of feedback. A ton of people. It's like people aren't here, but then I'm getting pings all the time and saying, "I listened to the recording." Like, you did? It's like, oh, it's hilarious. I'm like, oh, so there's a lot of people maybe not on the call, but yeah, I'm getting a lot of great feedback saying, yeah, listen to that one with Will and Sean, and it was freaking
Cool.
hilarious, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it's just not convenient. That's why I didn't want it to make it just a live thing. It's like, let's make it live, and then I'll scrub the recording and post it, for people to enjoy on their leisure. So thank you. Have a great weekend. And
You have a great weekend.
Everyone too.
All right.
Much love.
Happy late birthday, Jimmy.
Thank you guys. It was
All
a
right,
pleasure.
Joel,
Bye.
great meeting you, man.
Yo, you rocking,
Guys.
Lindo.
Keep going, man. Keep going what you're doing, dude.
There we go.
Later, guys. Have a good one.
Miller, get out of the pool.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Scott, you in jail?
Hey, you're
Scott, you in
you're
jail?
proving up, bro.
No.